I've said a couple of times. Firstly, thank you so much for joining the session today, especially in your first day back into the world of virtual schooling, and for joining us at 2 to 3 p.m. when I know there's a lot of virtual things going on from your schoolwork and everything. That's absolutely brilliant. Firstly, beyond that thanks, I just want to say it's so impressive. Every single time I see a student use this situation at the moment to gain a little bit more, and to use the fact that there is a slightly bit more time on our hands to kind of get some more skills, to understand a bit more about brands they could potentially be interested in the future. I'm really impressed. I'm Ellie here from Pathway CTM, so I know quite a few of the names that I can see popped up are familiar names, so you might know my face from previous sessions. But for those of you that don't, that's who I am. And personally, I always feel really impressed with students that are doing that and kind of using this opportunity. It shows keenness and enthusiasm and all those things which will set you up really nicely in the future. Like I said, then we had a little bit of a poll, which I asked those students who were on slightly earlier to fill out as you come into the session. And it's really interesting to see that actually we're seeing quite a mix of those who've dialed in, who do know what mindfulness is, and some of this, which is some of the content we're going to be talking about today. So that's 68% of people say yes, and 32% say no. So that's really interesting. So we've got a combination of students with knowing about mindfulness ahead of the session and those not. So it'd be really interesting to see how that it changes at the end of the session. Those people who've practiced mindfulness or meditation is also quite a similar split between the two. So we're looking at 47% have and 53% haven't. So that's really interesting as well. So there'll be definitely some different kind of insights taken. And then in terms of, do you think it will help you in this period of studying remotely at home? We've got a lot of yeses and maybes and not one no. So that's really and very good news for the session. So I'm just going to end that poll, and so that puts us kind of encourages students to continue as we started. So the reason I wanted to share that poll at the very beginning is because what we really want to encourage you to do today is interact with us. So I'm not the expert today, and I will be handing over to the expert, but I am here the whole way through the session to really help support you. If you have any questions, if you have any comments, then I really encourage you to use this time, because in such a difficult kind of climate at the moment, I think there are kind of some silver linings and positives. And I think from our perspective at Pathway CTM, what we're really able to do is connect you up with really interesting and insightful employers, like the special guest that we have today, who I'll introduce in a second. But the fact that you are actually here on a Zoom with someone at Pret A Manger who can help and give you insight into such an interesting topic, why not make the most of it? So absolutely, right into, I'll tell you right now how you can go about connecting with us. So there are multiple different ways you can do that. Lots of you will know this because I know you've been on quite a lot of our sessions, but if you are dialed in on the app, or you are on a laptop or computer, then you can go ahead and write any questions in the chat box. So I can see quite a few of you already, 3 people already have, so that's really good, and I'll kind of look at those questions in a second. But also you can write into the Q&A box, so that's also part of the Zoom application. So any questions you might have throughout the whole session, don't worry about interrupting us. Go ahead and do it. Don't let anything hold you back, and I'll keep an eye on those questions and make sure they're all answered. So don't worry, there's no bad question and there's no bad time to ask it. Same with the chat box, just go ahead and write in there. For those of you who are dialed in on your phone, which is also possible, and well done for doing that, you won't be able to kind of use those functions in the same way, but what you can do is you can either text back to the number which reminded you about this session earlier just now, and also you can write any queries into our student inbox, which I know all of you will have access to, hence the reason you are on here today. So either of those two means kind of as well. So that's really how you can interact with the session today. So ultimately, welcome back from your Easter break. I know it's unprecedented times, but it is an amazing time to use these opportunities like we have today. So well done for joining, as ever. and welcome back wholeheartedly from Pathway CTM. I'm just going to comment on the fact that I really like a few of the students are writing high into the chat box. That's the kind of community we want to create at Pathway CTM. So I'm really happy that actually someone's already finding it useful. So that sets you up quite nicely over to my special guest. PJ, I hope you sorted out the phone situation, but as I say, if your phone does die and you have to dial off, no problem at all. We will be following up with every single person that's joined the session today with a recording, so don't worry about that. So without further ado, I don't want the whole session to be me talking about logistics. I'm going to hand over to the expert. So Sarah, thank you so much for joining us today. It'll be brilliant if we could just get an introduction from you, who you are, and essentially a bit of background into what the session is about today.
Thank you, Ellie. I am really pleased to be here. I'm very grateful, actually, because we are in uncertain times. And I think for me, there's just been so many great examples of people supporting one another. And so what I'm hoping from this session is, yes, I can share some of my experiences of kind of looking after learning and development and well-being at Pret. But also, I would love to hear this to be two-way and to hear other people's ideas, because I think there's so many different things that people will be doing to positively look after themselves. And the theme of today is a little bit around mindfulness, but I've broadened it out a little bit into 3 secret ingredients for times of uncertainty. And those ingredients won't be so secret because I'm going to be sharing them. But they are things that personally I have found really helpful during periods of isolation, but also that we use at Pret, and so our workforce are benefiting from them as well. So anything I can do today, I'm really happy to share. There really are no secrets, so it's an open forum, no question is a stupid question, and I'm just really pleased that you've taken the time to kind of spend a little bit of time looking after yourself, really. You may have noticed Anderson, aka the puppy, or not so small puppy, in the corner. I have distracted him with a giant bone, so I'm hoping his head shouldn't pop up, but I wanted you to kind of recognise him just in case. I don't know if I've had a chance to meet any of you, whether any of you have come to Pret before for some of our Insight events, but if you haven't, my name is Sarah Bourne, and I've been at Pret for nearly 3 years, and I am in our global team in our head office in Victoria, and I look after all things learning and development. So at the moment, we're focusing a lot around leadership and how you can lead teams through a crisis. Also, a big chunk of my time at the moment is supporting well-being, and I was really encouraged by the poll results just to hear how many of you have heard about mindfulness, although it's great also that you're tuning in even if you haven't heard of mindfulness. It's one of those words that for me kind of means different things for different people, but it's for me about being present and conscious in the moment. And we're kind of going to go through some really practical techniques today about how you can support that, because I think in uncertain times it can be very tempting to kind of get caught up in our own thoughts, our own perhaps worries or anxieties. And so mindfulness as a practice can really help kind of center ourselves and really connect us to our breath and the present moment. So I'm going to share a little bit more about that. But ultimately, I have 3 kind of secret ingredients for you, and I'm going to ask you that, Ellie. Okay, so my first secret ingredient in the kind of theme of mindfulness is to take a pause. We are, I suppose, being absolutely bombarded at the moment with social media, with this totally kind of unprecedented time, and it can at times, I guess, make us feel slightly out of control. And connecting to pause and breath can be a really great way of centering ourselves and really focusing on what we can control in these times. So I'm going to try a couple of experiments with you. You can try them if you like. You absolutely don't have to. Totally up to you. So I'm going to ask you for a moment just to either close your eyes or lower your eyes, and put your hands on your stomach so you can really feel the rise and fall of your breath. And I'm going to ask you to take 3 deep breaths. So breathing in through your nose and out through your mouth. One more. One more. And now you've taken those deep breaths, just take a moment to pause and think, how is your mind feeling right now? Is it quite clear? Is it kind of whirling with thoughts? How is your mind feeling right now? Could you kind of label how it's feeling? And then how is your body feeling right now? So I can feel a slight bit of kind of tenseness in my jaw. I can feel that my shoulders perhaps need a little bit of a loosen. But generally I feel pretty relaxed. So, and there's absolutely no judgment however you're feeling. What's helpful with this exercise is just to pause and really connect back in with our mind and our body to really understand how relaxed we are, how alert we are. Perhaps did we get enough sleep last night? Are we drinking enough water? And really, would you have noticed how your body and your mind were feeling if you hadn't paused? So I would encourage you, if this kind of worked for you in that moment, just to take a few moments out in your day to do that pause, take a few deep breaths and ask yourself, how is your mind feeling and how is your body feeling? And just by connecting back into that, you can really start to center yourself and it can be quite calming. So if you tried that, feel free to use the chat to let us know how you found it. That's kind of point number one, pause. In kind of linked to the pause and that feeling of kind of centering or grounding, I want you to try another experiment. You absolutely don't have to, only if you feel comfortable. But personally, I think for me, this is something that I do probably a couple of times a day. Again, if I can feel that my mind is kind of spinning off into, oh, God, what's going to happen here? Or is this secure there? Or whatever it may be. And I can just, again, use this practice to really center myself and calm myself. So this exercise is similar. You're kind of sitting comfortably. So I'm in a chair right now. Both my feet are on the ground. My hands are on my stomach again, so I can feel the rise and fall of my breath. And I'm just going to lower my eyes, take a couple of deep breaths again. And with my breath, I'm then starting to really notice my feet on the ground. I'm noticing that my feet, both feet feel very sturdy, and that actually I'm imagining my feet starting to grow some roots. So the roots penetrate through the carpet, through the floorboards, so I feel really centered and anchored and strong in this moment, just connecting to my body and my breath. And for me, if I'm feeling overwhelmed, just that physical kind of exercise of putting both feet on the ground, noticing my breath and really anchoring myself to the floor can again feel very, very calming. And it might just need that kind of short 30 seconds, 1 minute exercise might just help you in periods where you might feel just a little overwhelmed. So that's something that I regularly try as well. And some people it may work for and others may not. I'm running daily live meditations with the Pret team at the moment. And people tune in at kind of different days and I practice different things. But I know for the team at Pret, certainly for some of them, they have found that these little exercises can be very calming. And I know some of them have used them at night time as well if they're struggling to sleep. So that's kind of the second one around pause. And then the third is visualization. So we're all getting pretty well acquainted with our homes at the moment. And I don't have the luxury of having a garden, but what I'm finding myself doing is practicing positive visualization. So we all have the power to have amazing imaginations. We can all close our eyes and drift off to a happy place, whatever that happy place may be for you. It could be the beach, it could be the countryside, it could be, I don't know, at a relative's home or a happy kind of childhood memory, whatever it may be. but just spending a few moments to really close your eyes and imagine yourself in that positive place can again be really kind of calming, and just help with relaxation at this time. So I would encourage that too. A free app that I have absolutely loved, and I've only found it in isolation, is called Radio Garden. And Radio Garden allows you to tune into any radio station in the entire world. So I've been tuning into radio stations in Hawaii, in Tanzania, and it just gives you this total kind of relaxation of being in another world. So while we're not in the position to be going on holiday or really much further from our homes right now, what we can do is use our imaginations to really drift off and imagine kind of warmer climes and or just kind of lovely and different areas of local radio station in the UK. Lots of different options. So I would give that a try as well. So that was the kind of third pause around visualization. So they are my kind of first secret ingredients around pause. And then the second secret ingredient I want to share is the Pret recipe book. So some of you who follow Pret on Instagram or on Facebook may have seen that our Pret chefs have been releasing new recipes to try at home every day. And I must admit, my first week in isolation was a real challenge. Even though I'm used to kind of working from home at times, I did feel very almost like psychologically isolated, even though it hadn't been that long in that first week. I think I was adjusting, and what that meant in that week is I ate really badly. So I ate lots of chocolate, lots of crisps, I got a couple of takeaways, and what I found is that I felt really lethargic and I just didn't really feel great about what I was eating. And so I have started to follow the Pret recipes, and really this isn't a sales pitch because you can follow any recipes. For me, this is about eating fresh food, trying time in the kitchen, and whatever recipes. I saw that Gordon Ramsay is doing some live free streams on Instagram. It can be anything you like. There's lots of kind of content, or just go through kind of recipe books you may have at home. But for me, just getting into the kitchen, I've been baking more than ever, and I've swapped out some of those unhealthy snacks for something a little bit more healthier. And in doing that, I have felt a little bit better about myself. I've felt lighter and less kind of stodgy, if you like, and it's just made me feel much better. So here's some of the recipes I have tried. So one of them that I just don't think I've ever made, and it's so affordable and so easy, is porridge. Just getting porridge oats, adding milk, and then you can add whatever toppings you like. So that's the kind of middle picture, and I know that looks very kind of luxurious, but for me, I added some banana and some nuts, and it just added that bit of texture that was really nice, and I really enjoyed making porridge. And then the shot is a ginger shot, so a nice kind of healthy ginger shot. And then there are recipes for smoothies, swapping out crisps, the kale crisps, so just trying things that are a little bit healthier and having some fun in the kitchen. And I think I said earlier about it being important to support one another. So for me, I'm just cooking for myself here, but I wonder how much you are sharing the cooking at home. If you are sharing in a kind of family household, like are you thinking about your own family and how they might be feeling right now, and how much they might benefit from some of your cooking skills as well? So that's something to think about. And you can follow the Pret recipe book, or really I just encourage you to really bring some structure into your day and make eating well and nutritiously kind of part of that. So that is number 2, Pret recipe book. And then my third secret ingredient is around power sphere. And I think one of the things to remember in this kind of rather strange time is that while we may feel physically isolated from our friends or extended family, maybe colleagues if you've got a part-time job, is that we're not socially isolated. And just even being here now, we have this opportunity to connect and do so in a way that more than ever before, really. So I just wanted to take a few moments for you to be thinking about your power sphere. And who is around you who can give you the support that you need right now, but also who might need that support from you as well. So first of all, I have a little activity for you, and feel free to use the chat box. So what activities revive you right now, and how much time are you allowing yourself for these activities? That could be walking on the kind of hours exercise. It could be a virtual exercise class. with Joe Wicks or anybody else. It might be running or having a long bath or chatting to friends on Zoom or wherever it may be, just having some time alone, meditation, reading, learning something new. So what activities, I'm going to ask you now, what activities are reviving you?
That's a great opportunity to write in the chat box. Students who are on the line now, I know that our team have been speaking to you about some examples of things you've been doing. So go ahead and write in any examples. So Katie started running, PJ started bike riding. Amazing. Oh, and we've got Shabazz, meditation already. That's really interesting, Sarah, in terms of what you're talking about. Using Strava, so that's another good example of one, Shabazz. And meditation through Headspace, which is good kind of examples of.
Nice.
That's brilliant.
Nice. And that's what I love about doing this sort of activity, because this is a kind of sharing community. I don't have all of the answers, but I think between us we can probably support one another quite a lot. So I really appreciate you taking the time to kind of share your thoughts there as well. And this is the kind of rhetorical question for you to ask yourself, although you can absolutely share it in the box as well. But how often are you making time for self-care right now? I definitely feel that I am a lot more sensitive to perhaps not hearing from family members as much, or at work, if I'm left out of a meeting, I'm like, oh, why have I been left out? So I definitely feel that I feel a little bit more sensitive than I normally would in a kind of normal situation. How much are you asking for support from others? Are you asking friends, family, co-workers, whatever it may be, people, your school friends, what do you want? What do you need right now? And what do they need from you? I think this is a really good moment in time to think how we're looking after ourselves, but also that the support we give others, and whether we can really look back with I suppose feeling proud that we have been kind to other people, but also that we've been kind to ourselves. It's kind of the analogy of being on a plane and putting your own kind of oxygen mask on first. You have to look after yourself first, and then you're going to be in a much stronger position to help others as well. So I would perhaps just an activity after this session is reflect on the split of how much you're serving your own well-being and looking after yourself, having a structure to your day. I definitely find the days when of a weekend where I'm sleeping in, I definitely feel a bit worse than when I'm up and going out for a walk early on. It just gives me more energy, but that's personal to me. For you, you might feel, actually, I need that bit of extra sleep, and that's absolutely fine. There's no judgment either way, but I think it is important to reflect on what are you doing to look after your well-being, and how are you supporting others around you? How are your family feeling right now? So what do they need from you, and have you asked? Because I think there's so many amazing examples of kindness like that right now, like our wonderful Captain Tom. But there's also, we all have opportunities to do our part to make those around us who we really love and care for feel supported in this time as well. So perhaps reflect on that. And there's a little sheet here, but I mean, you could just create a kind of spider diagram or whatever it is, and just think, who in your support network is there for you now, and what do you need from them? So there's evidence that says that people who have 5 different support networks have much kind of stronger resilience and positive well-being. So think about, is it sports teams that are now kind of meeting socially, virtually? Is it following positive kind of content on social media? Is it your school friends or your teachers? Is it colleagues in a part-time job that you may have that you're connecting in with? Family? Is it a kind of church group or a community group? Whatever it may be. Or is it organisations like Pathway CTM? Where are you getting? I feel, if I'm honest, this sort of opportunity just wasn't available to me at your age. And I think the fact that you're taking that motivation to do it is incredible. And you should really, kind of take note that that isn't the kind of norm, that I think you really are going above and beyond to kind of look after yourselves. And so I think, feel proud that you already you have that support network around you and you're utilising it. But also, what support can you give to others who might be in need around you, from a bit of your time, your listening, whatever it may be? Because I think definitely in my friendship circles, I've noticed that people are kind of having good days, harder days, and so you can kind of support one another at different times. So perhaps take a moment or two to complete that exercise as well. In terms of strengthening your power sphere, and one of you already mentioned Headspace already. Headspace, for those of you who haven't ever tried mindfulness or meditation, it's a free app, and you can really practice short meditations using the app. I used it I've probably used it for a couple of years now, and I just find it very helpful. There's short meditations and longer meditations, and it's a great starting point if you haven't ever tried meditation before. Calm also is a free app and is a meditation app. The one thing that I particularly love about Calm is if I'm ever struggling to sleep, there are sleep stories available. So you can listen to Stephen Fry, for example, reading a kind of relaxing story. And it just, for me personally, really helps me get back off to sleep. For anybody who enjoys yoga, there was due to be a yoga retreat this week in Ibiza that's obviously been cancelled. They are streaming from Ibiza on Yoga Fit retreats through Facebook Live, and there's a whole week of free classes to access running. It started yesterday and it runs all through to next weekend. So 3 times a day you can access free sessions. There's wellbeing talks, there's yoga, there's dance classes, bangasais, there's all sorts of things for you to enjoy. And so I thought you might like that one. Plant Nanny, I don't know if you've ever heard of it. It's kind of new to me, but I've only shared it with me. And it's a kind of light-hearted app where it encourages you and reminds you to drink water, and as you drink water you grow a little plant on the app. So kind of fun way to remember to drink more water in this time, keep ourselves well hydrated. And then Nike have free training on their app as well, so you can access lots of different workouts using the Nike app as well, and there's many others. But hopefully in structuring your day, giving yourself a routine, now you're back from Easter, bringing in some of this self-care mindfulness practice can just really again connect you to what's happening in the here and now. How is my mind feeling? How is my body feeling? And what am I doing to really look after myself from a kind of nutrition perspective, from a mind perspective, and our bodies as well. And I'd like to think, certainly for me, it's given me an opportunity to pause and really take that time to kind of look after myself and hopefully support those around me as well. So they were my 3. So pause, PretRecipeBook, and Power Sphere. I've kind of put at the end that we are in a strange time, and we're experiencing this moment in history where we have some choices about how we look back at our future selves. And I would just encourage you to think, how do you want to remember this time, the support that you provided yourself, the growth that you kind of created for yourself in this time, and how did you support those around you? Kind of being kind, keeping yourself well, but also really looking out for those around you. And perhaps even sharing just some of the tips, if you found any of them helpful today, sharing them with your loved ones and really encouraging this community that really focuses on self-care. So that's a few thoughts from me. I'm really happy to take any questions, any comments, kind of over to you, and thank you for joining me.
Yeah, that's absolutely great. Thank you so much, Sarah. I just wanted to touch on that last slide as well. For example, Jay and Shabazz, who have written into our chat box and Q&A, definitely take a note of those apps which you can download. I think that's absolutely brilliant. And for example, Katie and Pete, who've let us know that they're interested in running, and you've been following Joe Wicks, and there's some other opportunities in there which you can kind of use those examples which you might not have thought of doing at the moment. So well done for kind of interacting and letting us know what you've been up to, some of the students, and that's brilliant, Sarah. What we wanted to do now was kind of, as we always do on a Pathway CTM webinar, is just use this opportunity to ask any questions to Sarah. And I had a couple myself, so I'm going to kick off. But what I'd say is, as I'm asking the questions, I know that I can see some students who are absolutely amazing at asking questions, because I know your names and I've seen your questions before. So while I kick off with my questions, then get typing. So Sarah, my first question. So in terms of mindfulness and meditation and these things you've been talking about briefly, how did you first discover them? Because I think some of these students, it sounded like around, I can't remember my stat exactly, but 30% before this webinar today didn't know what mindfulness was. Do you remember how you first got into it? Or
I do, and I think mindfulness comes for people at different times. I think for me, it definitely came through a more kind of challenging time for me. It was a couple of years ago where I had started this new job at Pret, and for me, I was also experiencing divorce at the same time, so it was a bit of a kind of tricky time, and I really wanted to draw on resources that kind of strengthened me and supported me in that time. And I think this kind of environment now, I mean, some people may not be finding it challenging, but others will be. And I think all of us in our lives at some stage, we will have amazing pleasant moments, we will have less pleasant moments, and we'll have kind of more neutral moments. And I think for me, mindfulness is an opportunity to really just focus on the here and now, and not kind of race ahead thinking about the future or the past, just really connecting to the now. So I kind of found it through a personal challenging time, but equally now it's something that I practice every day, and it's kind of built into my routine, because I've just found the benefits of it being so helpful, just to really connect into the present and not let the kind of mind kind of race off in different directions.
Well, definitely 100% relevant to the moment, then definitely a good opportunity. That sounds like the students could use this uncertainty to find solace in that. Grace, thank you for asking the question, brilliant. Do you have any tips on how to clear a busy mind? Well, I guess you've given us a few tips there today, but in terms of, I guess, practicalities of finding a spot and a place. I know at the moment we're at home all the time, but if you were in a really busy day, in a busy working environment, how do you find that slot of
so I think I think there's just probably finding a space that is quiet. I appreciate if we're in kind of busy homes and it's almost like, where can you find a moment? It could just be finding different opportunities. So for example, often I will practice mindfulness in the shower. And I will just literally be thinking about kind of breathing. I might really notice the feeling of the kind of shower like hitting me, and how that feels in my body, what my mind's feeling. And that can just be a really helpful few minutes where we have privacy and we can just focus on our breath. Or it could be, one of the things I sometimes try as well is over my lunch. So it can be really easy to kind of mindlessly eat. And what I really try is to mindfully eat. So really noticing what I'm eating, what it tastes like, rather than kind of wolfing it down. And probably the other place that I find I practice mindfulness is out walking. And we can all do an hour's exercise at the moment. And I think what I really try and do, because so often when I notice when I'm walking, is that I'm thinking about my next meeting, or I'm worried about this, or I'm thinking, oh, I haven't called my nan for ages, or whatever it may be. And actually just by pausing and noticing the birds, noticing the trees. I went for a walk the other evening and I saw bats. I haven't seen bats for maybe ever. So it's amazing the things you actually notice when you're being more present in your natural environment. So I'm kind of looking out my window now as I'm saying that. So I would say you can practice it anywhere. It could be just before you go to sleep, at night. It could be in the shower. It could be walking. It could be while having your lunch. There's lots of different ways where you can, and it could be 45 minutes, or it could be for 30 seconds. It's just taking that moment, pause, and really focus on that kind of conscious moment and really connecting to your breath.
Brilliant, and that's a perfect answer to your question there, Grace. So, but really good, really good question. Wow, a really hefty question there from Shabazz, which I'll definitely read over. But first, I'm just going to ask a question in terms of your career. How has kind of using these techniques or mindfulness played a part in your career and working life, I guess, is another question from me.
I think probably the biggest change I've noticed is how it affects me at work. I think what mindfulness gives me is a greater sense of clarity and calm. And so, for example, if I am going into, I don't know, a meeting where I'm feeling a little bit out of my depth, or I'm about to present, it would be quite natural for me to feel very nervous, and my breath to be a little bit quick, and for that to come across in the way I present myself in that meeting. And I think what mindfulness and meditation has helped me to do is, before that meeting where I might be feeling uncomfortable, is to go to a kind of quiet place, take a pause, focus on my breath, ground my feet into the ground. Even if I'm in a meeting and I'm feeling, I don't know, someone's challenging me, or I feel challenged, I would literally focus on putting both my feet on the ground, hold my stomach to really feel my breath, and that really naturally calms me. And so then I think what people get from me is a more measured, calmer response, rather than a slightly flustered response potentially. So I would say that's probably been the number one thing that's really helped me, is breathing through to be more measured and calm in kind of more pressured situations.
Yeah, brilliant. And in terms of that, then also I guess it plays into decision making as well, because if you can have a level head and you can feel calm, then it really does help you like make those decisions which you, to get to where you've got to be honest, you must have such skill in that. And we've had, so I want to read out Shabaz's comments, because I think that firstly I just love the fact that you put the time into this detailed response, Shabaz, so thank you. Really enjoying your advice, Sarah. Your positive mindset and well-being approach is really inspiring. Please would you repeat the name of the radio app you used? I guess that's first part of the question.
That's Radio Garden.
Radio Garden, okay.
Radio Garden. I love it. It's literally my new favourite app.
Great. And also, I'm a great advocate of well-being and would just like to share my personal advice with everyone. Any form of exercise is great for improving your confidence, mindset, productivity, and more. The exercise can be anything from a few minutes to a few hours and should just be whatever you enjoy. Diet is important to a happy lifestyle, and getting the right balance is key. Just starting off with small adjustments such as drinking more water can make a huge difference to your mind. Finally, as Sarah mentioned, pausing is an amazing way to improve your mindfulness. My tips for pausing are to either practicing yoga, I use an app called Daily Yoga, reading a book to get a break from the internet lifestyle, and to also practice meditation of any form. Shabaz, I'm overwhelmed by what a good response that is.
I know, that's amazing.
So, thank you so much for sharing those bits as well, because that's what we're all about here, is sharing collectively all our different ideas, particularly in the moment. So I think
I love that. Thank you.
You and Sarah would get on very well. Thank you for your points. So another question from an anonymous attendee, which is of course absolutely fine, and just a reminder to everyone else who's dialed in that you don't ever have to share your name if you don't want to. How often would you suggest we build mindfulness sessions into our daily routines?
So for me, I think, I don't know if there's a right answer there. I think it's almost one step at a time, because if you've never tried it, then to do it daily may feel way too much. So I would start kind of gently. For me, I draw on it probably a couple of times a day, but that doesn't necessarily mean that I'm solidly meditating for 45 minutes, but it might be that like I kind of try one of those techniques, or when I'm walking, I really try and connect into that present moment. So I think what works for you, I think evidence suggests that if you can do it for 45 minutes a day, there are amazing health benefits. But equally, I think build yourself up to what feels right for you, and balancing. I wouldn't want you to feel kind of more stressed that you wouldn't have time to fit it in. So I think start, perhaps if you have never tried it, perhaps try something like Headspace and just try 5-10 minutes, see how you get on. And then gradually you can build up to something that feels more comfortable to you, and draw on it as and when you need to. But I think if you can get into a daily practice, even if it's 10-15 minutes a day, I really do think you would start to notice the kind of positive effects.
Brilliant. Yes, and also just let us know how you're getting on. I know that we do these webinars every day and they often have different content and things like that, but you know that the Pathway CTM team are here the whole time. So if you feel like you know, in a week's time you've been doing this and you started doing a session a day after this session that Sarah's done for us. We'd love to hear that. It's always good to know if these things have been useful or how they've played a part in your week, particularly at the moment. So great question. In terms of another question then I thought of earlier, so we, as part of the session, you talked about kind of it's not social distancing, it's physical distancing, so that part of community, but also in terms of meditation, mindfulness, some elements of it feel a bit seem a bit like it's you thinking, do you think it's a solitary thing or do you think it's something which is like community based? I know it's quite a difficult question, but there's both sides to it.
Yeah, I would say if you are starting out, guided meditation is way easier. Like for me, I would struggle to sit here by myself and just meditate. It would just be, I would find that very, very difficult. My mind would wander too much. So I think anything that you can do that is guided is the first thing, through Headspace, through Calm. I would also say that there is something really nice about a community of mindfulness. So in my local community, the mindfulness practitioner, she runs 2 sessions a week, 8:30 in the morning, and I tune into a mindfulness session where she guides it through, and we kind of, there's probably about 20 of us who join a Zoom call and listen and practice that meditation together, which I think is comforting, and you're more likely to do it if there's other people potentially who are encouraging you as well. At Pret, so I run, as I mentioned, daily meditations. Probably each time there are 20 to 30 people who join those, and then you can't see one another. It's just, but you know that there's a community of people who are practicing at the same time, and I think that's quite comforting. But equally, there are plenty of times where I just do it by myself, and notice that might be for me, some of the shorter techniques like the grounding exercise, the visualization, or the mindful walking, for example, or really noticing mindful eating and what I'm eating at different times. So really, I think it can be both. I think if you're starting out, guided meditation definitely helps, and there's those kind of Calm and Headspace, those 2 free apps that I would really encourage you to try.
Perfect. Well, that's good to know that you can definitely get involved whichever way you feel most comfortable for all of the students on the line particularly. So I'm conscious of time, and I know that we've had lots of insight today, so I just want to make sure before we wrap up the session that everyone's really clear in terms of follow-ups from today and how we can support you really off the back of this session. So as you'll have known from when you dialed into the call, this is being recorded today, and we will share it with you so that you have it, all of those who have attended today, if you want to refer back to it. So for example, Shabazz and a couple of people who've asked around the various apps which were spoken about, then you have it to hand. Also, as usual, then you will get a follow-up kind of survey, but what I'm going to ask you to do actually is I'm just posting that survey now into the chat box. So can everyone see the survey which I've just put in the chat box? What I do ask is, it takes honestly about 1 minute, if not less, and we just ask a few questions around the session today and around your experiences of it, so that's really useful for us. We will also send you a follow-up, as I mentioned, with the recording. I will ask that last question, which has just come into the Q&A box, to Sarah before we leave. But in terms of next steps, so do follow us on Pathway CTM on Instagram, because we do update that every single day with the sessions which are coming up and other content, so do follow us. In terms of if you have any questions between when you get that follow-up today or tomorrow, then you can email us in at student@pathwayctm.com. Just pop your name in, pop the fact that you were on this session today, and any questions you might have, and our team are kind of here to support you, of course, with any of those questions that you might have. So those are key follow-ups really, and I'm going to ask one question from Rachel. So I know you've been on quite a lot of our webinars, and I want to make sure that I ask your question. So Sarah, the final one from us, what are the benefits of continuous meditation and mindfulness? Great question. I think we've covered a couple.
It's such a good question.
Yeah.
And I think I wonder whether meditation and mindfulness practice is quite individual. For me, I think it brings calmness. I think it brings perhaps clarity. So at a time when your head might feel quite full and fuzzy with different thoughts, it can help, for me, really clear, bring a sense of clarity, a sense of alertness, a sense of sharpness, but mainly that kind of self-awareness of how are you feeling in that present moment. It can so often be easy to race ahead into our futures or get kind of knotted and wedded to our pasts, and the benefit for me is really just focusing on the here and now, not racing ahead, just literally focusing on where are you right now without any judgment, just being kind to yourself and just think, I'm in this present moment. And it can, for me, be incredibly calming. And I think there's lots of evidence around the positive effects of mental health with regular kind of mindfulness and meditation practice.
Absolutely, and I think that's such a nice kind of note to end on, is the fact that, you know, it's a difficult time at the moment, and there are lots of avenues you can use to help support you on that mental health side of things, and in order to give you another avenue of outlet. And we are, of course, here at Pathway CTM every day at 2 p.m. to kind of give you that routine and structure. So don't hesitate to reach out to us. Sarah, thank you again. It's been absolutely brilliant, and we really appreciate your time. So thank you so much. And
thank you for having me, and I wish you all well. I hope you keep really well and look after yourselves and one another.
Yes, thank you so much, and yeah, thank you to all the students who've dialed in. Welcome back, and yeah, we'll speak to you tomorrow at 2 p.m. Thank you.
Take care, everybody.